Hello, hello everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of the Code and Coffee Show. Today we are going to talk about security, which is a very important part of our developer's life. That's why with me I have Wiktoria Dalach, and she works in cybersecurity and likes sharing her knowledge on stage and on YouTube. That's why she's here. She's also a Women Techmaker Ambassador. Did I miss something?
No, seems fair.
Okay. So yes, today we are going to talk about not only security per se. So it's not that we are going to say that hey, remember to sanitize all your inputs and outputs, but we are also going to talk a bit about how to kind of transform from a developer to a person working in a security department, and we will also touch on a few other things. Also, if you have any questions to Victoria, uh, ask them in the comments on YouTube or on LinkedIn, and in the end, I will try to pass them on and we'll try to answer them. But before we will jump into the topic of security, yeah, it's code and coffee show. So first, we have to talk about a bit about coffee. So, are you a coffee drinker?
Yes, I am.
That's perfect. Yeah, because every time I'm a bit afraid because we had one person who said, "No, I prefer tea," and it was a very awkward moment. What to do now? Because, but still, Cassidy had a lot of very important things to say. So I decided, yeah, okay, she's a tea drinker, but okay, let her stay. Let her stay. And if I remember correctly, you live in Berlin, so in a beautiful city with so many great coffee places and roasteries like Five Elephants, like the Barn.
Yeah.
Tell something more because this is always a beautiful thing to hear.
Yeah, so coffee scene in Berlin is very vibrant, I would say. Um, I actually had a very nice coffee place nearby my house, so we would go there like every weekend regularly. Unfortunately, it was closed recently, and now I am actually on the mission to find my next favorite coffee place. So we discussed it with my partner, and definitely this fall slash winter season will be like going to all of this Five Elephants, Bonanza, etc. to find our like favorite one.
Okay, I really hope that you will share what you will find on some social media. So
Yeah,
next time
definitely.
I will be in Berlin. I will have a chance to also try it out because the one time I had a chance to stay longer in Berlin and we did this tour the coffee places.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was really amazing. As you mentioned, the whole coffee culture in Berlin is very vibrant. Is
Yeah.
It's just really amazing. It's really amazing. And
Yeah.
I remember that Barn had, apart from amazing coffee, they had those coffee drinks, even non-alcoholic ones.
Hmm.
They are really amazing. They really know how to connect the flavors. Yeah, so this was
Yes.
something I remember very well, and I really can't wait to go back.
Yeah. Let me know when you're in Berlin. We can go
of
together.
of course, of course. Okay, so we know that coffee fills your veins, and this is perfect. And yeah, now let's talk a bit about security. But first, yeah, your background, because you are a developer. I remember that you had a lot of talks about it. So I always remembered Victoria as a developer.
Mhm.
So tell us a bit more about your background and how it happened that at some point you decided, yeah, security is cool. Let's go that way.
Yeah. So I am like now trying to find my thoughts. But yeah, that's true. Like I studied human computer interaction in Krakow, which is also called electronic information processing. And it's like a hybrid of computer science, design, and linguistics. It was very interesting subject to study. I'm really grateful that I decided blindly to study it, because when I was making the decision, I was not fully aware of what all of that meant. But because the studies were combining all of those different knowledge, like kinds of knowledge or like disciplines, I really had like a good understanding of how the software development process looks like, you know. So, but on the other hand, it also meant that I've never thought about myself solely as a programmer. And when I finished and graduated the program, and I looked for my job, like first serious job, really, then I decided to become a developer only because it was easy to find. And
That's
yeah,
true.
it was like at that time it was like 10 years ago, so it was like the market was amazing for anyone who knew how to program even a little bit. And I became a developer. You know, in the meantime, I was creating a community. I organized some workshops with my friends. So it was like parallel, like community work and growing as a developer. And in Krakow, when I'm from originally, I work for, you know, very small startups of like 4 people, agency, like bigger startup. So yeah, I just, you know, started as a software developer and like grew as one. And then in 2017, I got approached by a recruiter, you know, hi, would you like to try for this opening in Berlin? And I thought, Berlin is super cool. And who knows? I mean, I can go for, you know, half a year and see how it feels like to live outside of Poland, to work in a very international culture, international organization. So I went 6 years ago, and you know, I'm still here. But why am I mentioning that? Because I started working for Contentful, which is like basically content infrastructure platform, and I started in 2017, and I've worked for 5 years there. And after my 3rd year, my manager, who was absolutely brilliant, asked if I maybe wanted to do a career change, to maybe try something new. And I looked around and I thought, well, if I go to any other product team, I will end up like doing basically the same. So writing highly scalable APIs, you know, maybe in Ruby, maybe in Node.js, but it will be basically the same thing. And I thought, wow, but we also have this security team, and I've always been interested in security. Why don't I just give it a try? And this is basically how it started. Like my manager said yes to that. The manager of security team said yes to that. And this is how we arranged that I will change, like over like a couple of weeks, from software engineer to security engineer.
And as you mentioned, you had a separate security team at Contentful. How does developers and security get along?
Excellent question. It very much depends.
My favorite answer, it depends. Really, next time I will be thinking about the name of the show, I will call it Depends. Really.
Well, but it is true. I think, you know, on the other, like, we could have, or listeners could have like a bingo, like your podcast bingo. And I think when we're talking about anything related to software engineering, there will always be, it depends somewhere during the
Exactly.
conversation. Um, so, it was, I really like this question, because I think I had this great honor and privilege to experience the same engineering organization from totally different angles. So I was very successful as a software engineer at Contentful, and I really loved the engineering culture there. And I would, come to my chapter meeting. So chapter as a meeting of all
Mhm.
programmers who use the same technology. They're sometimes called guilds also. So I would come to this meeting and I would say, let's try this because of that. And people overall will be very positive and open to experiment with my ideas. And then when I joined the same meetings, but as a security engineer, suddenly I would be bringing problems. I would be slowing the process. I would get a lot of pushback, which was shocking to me, honestly. So you know, this is like this is a like security is a little bit tricky topic, I would say, because on one hand you really want to I really understand when this pushback is coming from. So every developer has in their DNA that they want to just release things. They want to like do the coding and just release it, test it in production, however you call it.
Skip the documentation.
Yeah, that I mean the even like if we write the documentation, the main goal is to deliver, right? So, and security is like, whether security experts like it or not, like security people are always like, let's be careful with the delivery.
Mhm.
Let's deliver, but let's be mindful of what the threats are. So, and also, looking at the whole organization, when you are in a startup, when investors are just looking for like new features and not even improvements, but features and shiny things and things that will sell the product, then security is considered a cost.
Mhm.
Security is considered a blocker. So it's a sometimes tricky relationship. I realized that how useful and how important it is to have a clear why, and express this why to engineers, so they understand why we are demanding, not demanding, but asking for more.
Mhm.
And also, what I've been seeing since I joined security is that like the whole security industry is shifting their mindset a bit, and we're talking right now about shifting security left, which means like engaging security teams very early in the process of software development, so that uh, this tension is lessened. I
Mhm.
can elaborate later about that, but yeah, this is.
Yeah, so in a way, I think it's quite similar to what very often happens in some companies between developers and system administrators. There is always, you can feel that yeah, developers want to release and all the admins are like, okay, okay, let's check, let's try, let's make sure
Mhm.
that everything works. And out of it, the whole DevOps culture, when everything started kind of to mix, and also the important part that the wording, even, it became a culture. So it wasn't
Mhm.
like separate divisions of the team, but people working together with one goal. And from what I
Mhm.
understand, a similar thing is happening with security, right?
Yeah, so right now a lot of security teams uh, are aware that, well, we are only what, 4 people, 5 people, maybe 8 people if the company is huge, and we are not able to serve all of those teams that are like tens of teams or even hundreds of teams. So um, people are engaging with developers from each team and create a so-called security advocates or security champions program, which is great thing. I'm a huge fan of it. Security champion program is like exactly the idea is to have a person who on the team who represents security and who can ask the question like, is it secure? What can go wrong? Um, will we know if something goes wrong, and how will we know that we are doing the good job? So uh, this is very interesting, and I highly encourage the listeners,
Mhm.
if they are interested in security, to like engage in those programs, because usually security engineers, security teams train those people, show like how can they improve their knowledge regarding security. So this is a very it's a great opportunity to ups, upscale your skills.
Mhm.
um, yeah, so that's I really enjoy the idea, like really like the idea. What I would love to see, and this is my dream, and please, if you are listening and you can do it, please do it. I would love to run an experiment and engage not only developers into security champions program, but also QAs, so testers,
Mhm.
because testers have such a great mindset. They already think like, what can go wrong? And this is basically what we need as security engineers to think about, right? So what can go wrong? How
Mhm.
can we prevent the bad things to happen? So I would love to see a company engaging quality assurance engineers in their security champions program. That's my dream. Unfortunately, right now I work in a company that doesn't have a event development department. So this is why I'm talking about it and hoping that a listener will reach out later and say,
Yes,
yeah,
but
we'll do that.
I can fully understand this dream because it's really logical because like developers, as you mentioned, developers want to release, they create things. And
Yeah,
the QA department is the department that likes to break stuff. So if they break,
absolutely.
so breaking on the security level, yeah, it's just another thing to break. That's perfect.
Yeah,
Let's go on.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I believe that it would be a great fun for them
Mhm.
also.
Yes, I can totally imagine. So if anyone who is listening to this and think it's a great idea, yeah, do it. We would also really like to hear about the results in a, I don't know, quarter, 2 quarters, because
Yeah.
it really sounds interesting. And uh, going back to becoming a part of the security team, uh, do you need any special skills to work in such a team apart from kind of this breaking stuff mentality?
Mhm. I would say this is a great basis to start with, but honestly, I don't think I'm the best person to ask this question, because I got the privilege of like staying in the same organization and just being moved to another team. Of course, during the transition period. So when I knew that I would be joining security, I did some, classes on Coursera for about cybersecurity. I think I took like 4 classes from NYU, and I can recommend those classes. They give you a very good overview what cybersecurity is about. Right now, I know that both IBM and Google released something called cybersecurity certificate, professional certificates, or something like that. So you could also look into that, and it's also on Coursera. On the other hand, I worked for like a software company, and my biggest, we would say my title would be like application security engineer. But there are different, like security is such a vast topic that whatever you, like you can say, oh, security specialist, but it can mean so many different things. You can be application security, cloud security, IT security, you can be an analyst. So I would suggest, if you are thinking about going into security, honestly, like go on YouTube and watch videos like what day in life of a security analyst or day in life of security engineer, to get a grasp of what this job is about, and then go to job openings, like job postings, and see what kind of skills they like are asking for, because it will very much depend on the position and on the company.
And tell me, did the fact that you, I mean, it's not that at some point you just stop being a developer because you're
Yeah,
still at heart a developer.
yeah.
This is also my problem. I work as a devrel, and I always introduce myself that I am a developer working as a devrel, because yeah, you are.
Mm-hmm.
So still, is being a developer a good or bad thing in security? Because we already know that the mentality is different. It's creation
Mm-hmm.
versus breaking. So this is one thing that being a developer probably isn't the best. But yeah, but how does it look like?
In my opinion, it can be a good and a bad thing. As you already mentioned, like as a developer, I'm very much like sympathizing with my colleagues, developers who just want to release, and I'm like, what bad can happen? But I need to remember that no, like right now I need to be more assertive and don't go with my like first instinct. But on the other hand, like it gave me such a huge advantage to like know the product very well and understand how people work and understand what the rhythm of the work in a project is. I think it was actually very, very useful for me. And because I had been working for Contentful for 3 years, I really knew the product well, so I could help my my security colleagues to understand like what a feature is about, like how does it work, what are the limitations. And I knew that, for example, if we are bringing a vulnerability to fix to a team, the team is just stressed about the deadline, they will definitely ask for for some kind of deadline extension, etc. So yeah, also understanding how the code works as an application security engineer, that was very helpful, definitely, because I could see if we had some vulnerabilities, I could like repeat it. I mean, I could see if it's legit or not. That was easier, I think. I could see if when we had, for example, vulnerability in the code base, I could see like if it's legit or it's maybe false positive. So overall, it was very helpful, but I don't think it's necessary. I know a lot of security experts and engineers and security analysts who don't really know how to code or code very like simple scripts. So it highly depends on the role.
So another one for our bingo. It depends, right?
Oh no, I'm so sorry again.
No, no.
But
But
maybe maybe if I reach 10, it depends, then I will get a prize or something.
I really have to think about it because it's a really amazing idea for this small inner game. So yeah, it's we already have two, if I remember. We'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see. um, but from what you said, I kind of see the picture, and it's not only in security because it again this example of DevOps culture. But I'm also seeing my role, and I'm a DevRel in our company, that people like us serve as bridges between many divisions by understanding how it works on both ends. In your case, both as a developer and as a security engineer, it was easier for you to connect it to connect some gaps and everything, and I really see that currently, especially when really all the teams are getting bigger and bigger, the stacks are getting more and more complicated. Let's be honest, it's not getting easier. Having those human bridges is very important, and I think that it really helps. Sometimes it's not visible at first, but at some point when, especially when things go wrong and we have to work very swiftly, such people are just the most important during those times. So yeah, it's really great to hear. And yeah, you also mentioned that now you switch jobs, and you are not working in a technology company. And this is kind of my next question, because from our developer point of view, when we think about security, yeah, we think about all those validations, sanitizations. In short, we are thinking mostly about the code. But how much of your security work is related with code, and what part is related with humans? Because as we remember, Kevin Mitnick once said that it's easier to kind of hack or crack people rather than code, than IT solutions.
Yes, excellent question. Right now, right now I work as a cybersecurity awareness specialist. So basically, what I do, I create educational content and trainings for people in a very big organization. And it's incredible. It's I am very grateful for this experience. I really like to, for some reason, I really enjoy challenging myself with something completely different and new. So same as I don't know, going abroad, like immigrating to Germany, that was very much outside of my comfort zone. Then going to security also, and now I completely changed, and I don't work in a tech company, which made me aware of the challenges that people outside of tech bubble face. And it's very interesting for me because I realized that when we think about when we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like safety is the second most basic layer of our needs, right? Just
Mhm.
above food, water, etc. So we understand that safety and security is important, and this is why we like teach our children not to burn their hands. We teach them how to like cross the street. We teach them to be careful with strangers, etc. Right? From very early on, like very early in our lives, we get this security, how to be secure in the physical world. And what is happening now is that, well, we are still in the physical world, and we have bodies, and we live in physical world. And at the same time, we created this like extensions of ourselves, right, in the internet. And and sometimes we live in the internet more than in the physical world. That's true, at least from my experience, I think. And yet we are not really as careful in the internet as we are in the physical world. So, and at the same time, like the crimes that are committed, like in physical world, were at some point transferred to
Mhm.
the web because they're easier to do there, and sometimes on much bigger scale. Um, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Uh, because before this show we had one dry run, and we kind of discussed also about the number of scams that are happening, and as you said, it's really difficult to kind of teach many people about some of those things, especially with new ways showing up, like AI that can pretend our voice.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are so many potential ways to trick us, and on the other hand, it's changing so quickly, and I really can't fully imagine how we can how we can fully handle this, because those examples that you said about not
Mm-hmm.
trusting strangers, about not burning your hand, those things are kind of constant. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you never should burn your hand, and
Mm-hmm.
it always kind of looks the same. There is either a stove or whatever, a candle, uh, but it's like a kind of closed set of things that can burn your hand. And with
Mm-hmm.
cybersecurity, every day looks like, yeah, a totally new adventure. And I can imagine that sometimes probably you read about some new technique and you are about like, wow, they thought even about something like this, right?
Yeah, I mean, what is pretty incredible is that you don't have to like. So we like, and the company I work for, and any other company that worked for, like security is considered, a cost, and companies like spend good money on security, you know. And we create those very sophisticated sophisticated ways of prevent uh, threats and prevent the attacks, right? But on the other hand, you have like attackers who really can buy some kind of malicious software online, and they don't really have to have like a very sophisticated knowledge about tech
Mhm.
to attack. So it is quite fascinating and quite scary. What you said about those deep fakes and people and AI being able to imitate someone else's voice. This is honestly awful. Like, think about it. Like, there was a case. I mean, there are cases of some scammers who call you and they say that, I don't know, they're your daughter or they're your wife or husband, and they just really need some number because they're in danger, etc. Or they're calling as, I don't know, a doctor, like, oh, your wife had an accident and you need to be like, please, because you need to provide credit card because otherwise we will not be able to transfuse her blood or etc. What would you do? Like, obviously these are highly emotional situations, and people, like, how can you prepare people for that?
Let's be honest, you can't.
No.
And
Yeah.
and in a way, and this is also a kind of awful thing, because in a way also you shouldn't, because the fact of our emotions, it's very important how we react on some things. I mean, this is how we are constructed, and
Yeah.
kind of trying to block ourselves, learn to do this, it's just inhuman. And I think this is one of the worst things about those scams, that they rely on just how we are,
Mm-hmm.
how we should naturally behave. Because yeah, if someone would call that, and I am a person who understand how security works and everything, but if someone
Mm-hmm.
would call and say that, yeah, something is happening with my wife, and my brain, or maybe not, another way, my reasonable thinking would shut off the
Yeah, of course.
emotions. It would be a natural reaction. Yeah, something is happening with my wife. My role is to, or my task is to help her in a way I can.
Yeah.
And probably after giving this number of what they asked, probably after a few minutes would be like, okay, I did a horrible thing. But
Mm.
yeah, this is how we react. And this is kind of also the reason why all those methods are so popular over the years,
Yeah.
because we hear about them for so many years. Only they have slight changes, but that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And um yeah, and kind of switching back to a more technical aspect.
Mm-hmm.
If some junior developer would ask you, how can I be sure that my application is secure?
I would say you ain't junior anymore. I've never had a junior like asking this question. I think juniors are usually very focused on just making things work, which is fair, I think.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't answer your question. Of course, the intention is like, what can you do as a software engineer? The easiest thing, I believe, in the easiest and the most fundamental is to learn threat modeling. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, like shifting security left, this trend in security, because security doesn't want to be a blocker, want to be an enabler. So, shifting security left means that when we look at the software development lifecycle, we have 5 phases: analysis, design, development, testing, and release, or maintenance.
Mhm.
And what happens now, what happens very often is that security team goes into review mode when you are actually just before the release. So this is this famous that my manager comes to the room like on the on the Tuesday of the last sprint of a project and says, hey, like it would be great if we like just ran it very quickly through the security to see if it's okay to be released. It's awful situation for developers because the plan for the sprint is ruined. The security people always find something very irritating that needs to be changed. You need to write some code. It takes much more time, and this so stressful, and you need to release, so you work longer hours, you're frustrated, you're even more stressed. Horrible. So shifting security left means that, hey, instead of doing this, let's engage security review basically during the design process. So when you have your system design on the piece of paper, on a whiteboard, in Miro, Jira, whatever, Atlassian, whatever you use to, I don't know, to create a diagram, let's engage the security team then so they can say, hey, walk me through it. Let's change this will be more secure. This will be less secure. Let's do this way. So, and this is basically during exercise called threat modeling. And threat modeling is super cool activity. I wish everyone knew how to do threat modeling, and I wish it was taught at every university. Because threat modeling works, whatever your technology is, whatever your role is, front end, back end, DevOps, it doesn't really matter. It really doesn't matter what is your experience level, junior, senior, staff. A designer can do threat modeling. It doesn't, like, the role doesn't matter. And during threat modeling exercise, you basically look at this design and say, what is the impact on, for example, the CIA triad? So CIA triad is this base of security, very basic piece of theory. It has a very cool name. So CIA, like this spy agency. And I always say that I will not. I could make a joke about spies, but the only spies I like are Spice Girls. And some people understand this joke. Apparently, we're same age.
I love jokes like this, really.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's you really can feel if the audience has is from the 90s, or had their childhood in the 90s, or not. Then they don't understand, and it's awkward, but it's fine. And yeah, so basically the CIA triad is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And during a threat modeling exercise, you can ask, what impact would this design, would this feature have on confidentiality, integrity, and availability? And you go element by element and you ask this question. It's very straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
It is engaging. It should be done in a team. I think the best results you get in a team, because you need like different inputs, different perspectives. And basically, after this threat modeling exercise, you're much more likely to create much more secure product. Of course, there are many other frameworks to do threat modeling. You can do 4 questions or some others, but the CIA triad, I think, is the easiest to remember, because the CIA, as I said, you already know.
Yeah, the name is beautiful.
Yeah,
and that's kind of true. I mean, it kind of reminds me of, because we as developers very often talk with our rubber ducks, so I can imagine that very often we just pull out our rubber duck and ask them those questions. Do you think that this task will uh, impact our what some part of our security? And yeah,
Yeah.
even very often, even asking those questions, kind of thinking about it, can let us having this small light bulb,
Yeah.
um, and thinking, okay,
Absolutely.
yeah, this might not be the best solution that we just introduced. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's just one like another thought that I have, like regarding threat modeling and shifting security left. You know, I've talked about it on many conferences, and the feedback was, "Oh, okay, cool. Well, but does it mean that we just need to do more work?" You know, this is something what the developers would ask me, and it's fair. And it's fair.
Mhm.
I think, you know, it is adding a different activity. But on the other hand, um, there is something called risk management in security, and we have this whole process. And your company needs to have risk management in order to like have any kind of security certification and like have
Mhm.
like big deals. So it's like big sales numbers. Um, so risk management is exactly for cases when you have like threat modeling. You discovered, oh, this would be much more secure to implement, but it would take us 6 months, and
Mhm.
we are not willing to invest so much time. This is a risk, but we accept this risk. And this goes, excuse me, this goes through the risk management process, you know, and it's completely fine. It is actually very good and for organization to be aware of the risks that a design is that the design comes with, you know.
Mhm.
Because then you can manage this risk and you can assess it. Like you can come back, you can see, oh, so this feature is actually great and we're selling so much. We actually now realize that we want to invest more. This is this risk, we'll address it now. So when you do that threat modeling, it doesn't mean that you will have to have much more work
Mhm.
because of this risk management. And not every risk needs to be addressed immediately. That's an asterisk I wanted to add to that, because I know that people generally don't know about processes
Mhm.
in security, and I know that there is a lot of anxiety slash avoidance for those kind of security activities, because yeah, people consider that, oh, this will only make us more busy, and
Mhm.
we already have so much on our plates.
But on the other hand, I would say that still, when you always, even if it will add you a bit more work,
Hmm.
still you have it under control. So if you find a problem, you will find it during the development phase, and
Hmm.
you have more control over what to do with this now, rather than you put it on production and someone finds this problem.
Yeah.
Then we know how fixing stuff on production looks like. You have no control, you just have a target, you have to fix it. You have,
Hmm.
and that's the only thing you know. And still moving everything to the development phase in because I never thought that I will say that my parents were right, because they always,
I'm sorry for
yes,
laughing so loud,
yes,
but
I know,
it's
yeah,
brilliant.
because they always told me, do things with small steps, but
Mm-hmm.
regularly. And this is the
Mm-hmm.
same. Like, do not approach the security as a one humongous task at the end that no one wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
It was me
Yeah.
with my homework every Sunday in the evening. My parents told me, start doing your homework every day and you will have free Sunday. I never listened to them. And it turns out that here this is exactly the same thing. If we would
Yeah.
divide it into those smaller tasks, being a part of, I mean, having security as part of every task rather than this one humongous thing that no one wants to touch. Because also the mentality towards this task kind of
Mm.
changes, right? Because
Yeah.
this blocker task, as you said, it becomes a blocker task rather just a part of a small part of another task, and still we have full control over what are we doing with this. As you said, the risk assessment, so we can say, yeah, we'll fix it later on our
Mm-hmm.
terms. With this, we took this decision rather
Yeah.
than, yeah, hell broke
Yeah.
loose, have fun.
Yeah. Also, like from my from my experience, like fixing vulnerabilities is a nightmare. It's like it's awful. It's my least favorite thing to do as a developer because I kid you not how many times I had to fix a vulnerability, and we thought in the team, we planned it into the sprint, and I don't know, someone would do initial investigation, like how difficult it will be to fix, and it will be like, no, it will be like 2 days max, maybe 3 with testing. I kid you not, like 2 weeks later, we were crying together, holding hands, and we couldn't fix it for some reason because suddenly, since it was already in production, like there were dependencies between this feature and another, and for our customers, Contentful is heavily like API heavy company, right? So customers would have some integrations, some kind they would rely on this feature acting exactly this way, already, and it would be just horrible thing. So overall, tackling security issues, and you know investing in threat modeling, investing in the shifting security left is a good way to save yourself some headache
Mhm.
later.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I have one more question, because right now we were kind of
Hmm.
talking mostly what should we do
Hmm.
before the hell broke
Yeah.
loose, before we release it, before someone enters our system. Okay,
Yeah.
but it happens. Let's
Yes.
say the risk assessment was kind of bad and someone used some error in our code.
Hmm.
What now? How to fix it? Because it's too late for prevention, right? Because someone is
Hmm. Yeah.
using it, and what steps should be taken? Uh, I understand that the first thing is just don't panic.
I mean, if you have like a vulnerability in your code,
Mhm.
then there is usually this beautiful process called vulnerability, or this document called vulnerability management policy. And when we discover the vulnerability, we just assess how severe it is, the severity
Let's say
level.
it
Like,
is. It is. It's like this hell broke loose problem.
okay, so it depends whether it is an incident, or
Next, it depends. Yes.
just third time. Okay. um if it's an incident, then also there is incident response policy and process, and you go, and it's like it's very heavy, and you have to like be an organizer. You need to inform the stakeholders and assess the severity again, like look into like what can be done. It is basically as there is an incident, in I don't know if you have experience like, but if there is like an infrastructure and the
Mhm.
product is down, then like you need to have like a very clear boundaries and process on what to do then, because if everyone starts fixing the problem in the same moment, then it's another disaster. So so in case of incident, then you have like a process that you need to follow, and you need to stay calm, and you need to like slow people down, because from my experience, people just want to fix things immediately, which is not always the good thing. And if it's a vulnerability that is very severe, then you also have process, and you say, hey, you need to, usually it's like you go to the team and say you need to fix it in the next 2 days, because this is what we
Mhm.
have in our document, like, and again, policy, and this needs to be done, and it needs to be done. And usually, when the severity is very high, then there is no problems, like,
Mhm.
are very disciplined, very professional. They're like, yes, we're doing this, and I've never had a problem like in this like very stressful situations to make people like do things. They were actually very, they were taking the ownership. The problem is with those vulnerabilities that are like not so severe, because then people are like, maybe we can just skip it, or maybe we can prolong
Maybe
the
it will fix on its own,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, but it's kind of so. In short, the most important thing of handling those situations is well, being prepared and having all those boring processes,
yeah,
procedures, documents, all the boring stuff that during if something goes wrong, you just open the PDF or whatever and you just mindlessly follow step by step until the
yeah,
parts when you just and yeah, you have to kind of think about why something
yeah,
happened,
yeah,
but the general process is yeah, there is a process. That's the most
yeah,
important part because I can imagine that if there wouldn't be a process, then oh,
yeah,
it won't end well. I can imagine. Yeah, so sadly, and this is bad news for many of you. Processes sometimes are important.
yeah,
I know that they can be boring, especially preparing them. But in those stressful situations, they can really save our lives. Okay, so I think that I really learned a lot. I really learned a lot. It was
thank you.
it was very interesting uh, to learn how security is changing, and again, that this trend about those people bridges that
Hmm.
connect those teams. I really like the thing you mentioned about having those champions slash ambassadors,
Hmm.
whatever you call them, and yeah, and I really really love this approach in general lately in IT that we are kind of trying to have. Not to have those department that only take care of
Hmm.
those, but that we try to have as many things handled inside a team as those small subtasks rather than
Hmm.
another point of a process. So like I said, my parents were right, really. Do it step by step. Do not wait and have this enormous task at end of your Sunday.
Yeah.
Of course, the good part is that my parents aren't fluent in English, so they will never hear this and they will never know I told this. So, yes. So, once again,
I had a very naughty joke to say to that, but I will not say it.
why not? Now when
So
you started.
actually, actually, if someone is interested in open source intelligence, they can actually find your parents and somewhere in the internet and text them or
That is
message them.
true. We'll
And
see.
yeah, they will say, hey, actually, your son said that you were right.
They won't believe it. I'm sure. I mean, they will probably treat it like some sort of scam. It's like, I mean, I'm sure that they are expecting many things, but not me saying like openly and directly, parents, you were right. No, no, no. No. Yeah, but this is. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. If I will get some message or a phone soon, then I will share it with everyone. So yeah, Victoria, thank you so much for spending time with us, sharing a lot of knowledge. And if someone has some more questions, you can. I'm sure that you can ask Victoria on her LinkedIn account or
Of
on
course.
Twitter, and I'm sure that Victoria will be always glad to help and maybe she will also share another interesting thing from the security world because yeah it's a very important it's a very important topic, and it's kind of sad that it's, as you mentioned, it's seen as a blocker. We all know
Maybe
how
not. Maybe starting from this talk on, people will be like, no, let's not do it this way.
yeah, because also I'm sure that for every company it is a blocker until the moment when something bad happens.
Yes.
Then it's not a blocker anymore. It's the most important part of our policy. And exactly, the policies shows up, the processes show up. Yeah, it's sometimes it's really interesting to see how many things can change by one attack, right? It's sometimes really unbelievable.
Yeah.
Um,
I-
yeah, so thank you again. Thank you everyone for listening us. And if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to press the subscribe on YouTube. And of course, don't forget to follow Victoria on her social media because she always shares some interesting things. And you have a newsletter too. I know it.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. Thank you for having me. It was such a fun experience. I was very stressed before, but it was really awesome. And yeah, as Maciek said, if you have any questions, please message me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best. Twitter I stopped using, so
How could
yeah. Well, another podcast about that.
And next season, why Victoria stopped using Twitter or X and switched to LinkedIn? Okay, it's an idea. Okay, we'll do it. We'll do it. So thanks again, everyone, and see you in 2 weeks. And we will discuss APIs and integrating them in big companies. So I hope you will join us. Like I said, in 2 weeks we'll meet Christoph from Kinsta. Okay, so thanks everyone and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.